Hi, everybody, and welcome to the DogCo Secrets podcast. My name is Michelle Klein. I am your host, and I am also the founder of DogCo Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. And I'm really excited for today's episode because we are going to be speaking with Angela Watts, who is both a client of mine and a friend, and also on the DogCo team now. So we have lots of different things to explore. And Angela was willing to come on here today, share a bit about her story. And I wanted to preface with one of the biggest things that I hope the audience takes away from this episode is really hearing how intentional Angela has been about designing her role in her business. Every time we talk, I leave with just this inspiration at how she has really designed the operations to serve both the business and the clients and the team while protecting this role that she's crafting very intentionally in her relationship to her business. So, Angela, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You and I know each other well, but for anybody on the podcast who maybe hasn't connected with you, because a lot of people in DogCo now have, I'd love for you to share a bit about your story, where you started and how we got to where we are right here.
Sure. It's been a journey. And it kind of started in 2004. I was married at the time and we bought a house and I had two dogs. I had a German Shepherd and I had a German Shepherd Husky mix who, as large breeds and working dogs, they needed a lot of exercise. And unfortunately, we lived in a place where we had to commute and our commutes were an hour to an hour and a half each way. And
Wow.
so we were gone sometimes 10, 11, 12 hours. And my poor dogs, I felt like I was such a bad pet parent because we didn't have pet services like we have now back then. The only thing that we had was boarding facilities. I just felt awful, but there was nothing we could do. And so we were determined to create a doggy daycare at some point. We were going to save money and build a doggy daycare and be home with our dogs all the time. Well, obviously that didn't pan out that way. In 2008, the recession happened and we lost our home. My husband, he wasn't working at the time, so we had to move back to our hometown. That's where most of the work was. So most of the work was out in Boston. And so we took a couple years to get our feet back and moved back in with my parents because he decided to quit his full-time job and start a dog walking company. And I was like, what are you doing? I was so angry. We had just got back into the groove of having enough income to pay our bills, and he decides to quit. And I was a teacher, and teachers, unfortunately, don't make a ton of money. And living on one salary in the Boston area just wasn't going to cut it. So I asked my parents, I said, can I move back home? I said, this is the only way. I'm like, he's not getting another job. He wants to start this pet care company. His whole thing was he wanted to follow his passion of working with animals, which of course I wanted to support because that's what we wanted at some point, just not at that point. But I'm glad that he did in the end because he worked hard. He was the dog walker. I was the cat sitter. So I did cat sitting visits before school, after school, weekends, school vacations, and he just grew as a dog walker. And then he ended up getting sick, was in and out of treatment in 2014. And so I was trying to take care of him, take him to his appointments, teach full time. And I was a teacher of students with special needs, so not an easy population to work with. Great kids, but a lot of stress and a lot of take home work. And I was trying to build a business. So at the time, I didn't have time to train people. So I hired independent contractors and I hired people who already had their business. I was like, I can't train you. I was like, I just need you to help out. And it was great. Like they invoiced me and, really helped out during that 3-month, 4-month time until I was able to put in my notice and take a leave of absence. I took a leave of absence from teaching for a year just to help him get better, build the business. And I absolutely loved it. I totally loved being outside. Like I literally did 15, 16 walks a day and I didn't care. It was the best thing in the world. And in between, I'd have my kitties, but he was home taking care of my dog. So I was not guilty, I didn't have that same guilt when I was working a lot before because I had somebody home with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went so well, I decided to take another year off, but then I missed the kids and I was like, I want to go back. I want to go back part-time. I really love them. So I did try, and there's no such thing as a part-time teaching job. I mean,
Yeah.
I was working 30 hours, 40 hours a week, and it was only like a 12-hour position. So I finished out the school year, took another leave of absence, and then they were like, you need to either resign or come back full-time. And I was like, well, I'm not coming back full-time. And I was so upset because I worked so hard to get into this district. Getting your teaching license and all of that is a lot of hard work. And I decided I let my teacher license go. I lapsed it. I was a board certified behavior analyst. I let that certification go too because I just could not keep up with the continuing education credits that you needed to do to keep your certification going. But I knew I wanted to focus in on my business. I had hired a bunch of people. I had a team of like maybe 5 to 8 at the time when I started maybe trying to dab into hiring a manager, training a manager. The people were awesome at pet care, but I just did not do a great job at managing them and training them how to be managers. So my first couple of managers really did not work out the way I wanted them to. They were fantastic people, but it was just me. And I was just not in the right mindset of how to train them, I guess, to be managers and all of that. In 2018 is when my ex-husband and I separated. And I obviously went through a really hard and dark time during that time and struggled a lot with what am I going to do with this business? Because it was still his, technically. Had to figure that all out, but we did. Eventually, the pandemic happened, so we almost lost the business there. We lost like 80% of our company, our visits during that time. And thankfully, we were able to get that PPP loan, and our clients, many of them supported us. So my team was able to do professional development instead of going into the field. I was still going into the field for people that were considered essential workers and had to go into work, but we closed down. Massachusetts was shut down for a long, long time, and it took us a couple years to really rebuild. And so in 2022, I think is when I hired one of my long-term employees. He was like, you know what would happen if I worked full-time? Would I be able to become a manager? I said, oh my God, I didn't think you'd ever want to, because he would always leave us for the summer to do something else. And so that was the start of my management team. And so I would train him how to do things. And then he wrote down how to do them and fixed things and made things better. And we have not stopped growing since then.
If you feel stuck in your pet care business, this one is for you. I've worked with over 200 companies in the pet care industry, and this is what I can tell you. If you feel stuck in your business, if you are struggling with burnout, if your net profit is too low, if you're not growing your top line revenue, those changes will not happen by accident. My name is Michelle Klein. I am a coach consultant in the pet care space, and I help team-based companies grow and scale. We have just opened up our doors for enrollment, and we are only taking companies once a year. So if you want to work with DogCo, if you have that on your radar, January 2026 is your chance, and you need to schedule a consultation now. Go to dogcolaunch.com/mastermind to learn more. That timeline is kind of wild to me. And obviously I know your business pretty well at this point because we've worked together for a while, but I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but Angela is in my 7-figure DogCo group. She no longer has a tiny business with 5 to 8 people, and not even that is tiny, but what is your team size at now? Just so people have kind of this contrast that I'm seeing from my role.
Including me, we have 39. And I have 2 or 3 more coming within the next 3 weeks.
Gosh. I love hearing too that the acceleration for the growth, it sounds like, was kind of in tandem with starting to structure and operationalize more. What did you see that unlock for your business?
So much. Because it was all about me in the beginning. And I had so much control because this was my baby. In 2022, when my ex and I finally went through the final stages of our divorce, it took us forever, but we finally were able to do it. Rebranded, restructured. That's when I was like, okay, I need to be intentional. I need to get in a better space. This is what we're going to do. And so I had to protect me, my time, and my energy, because I realized when I was not sleeping, I was working too much. I was too stressed. I was not my best person, and I could not run my business the way I wanted to. And the only way for me to do that was to ask for help. I was not a person to ask for help before. I had to do everything by myself because I was this independent woman, and that did not serve me well. So
Yeah.
once I got a taste of how my manager could help me, I was hooked. And I was like, okay, I'm going to spend the time in teaching them how to lead and manage and just help me. And learning how to delegate was huge.
The word intentional is what I think of when I think of you, because so much of this does feel so intentionally done. I guess if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see us, but you can't see what I'm about to describe. Angela builds these spreadsheets that are just so beautiful, so detailed. I bring that up because there is this through line of intention, I feel like, with the way that you've approached your business. And it makes so much sense kind of hearing the backstory of all the pieces that came together. I'd love to know, as you look back at the history of your business, your relationship with your business, what were maybe some key points where you felt stuck? Like there's some big bottleneck that you needed to get through?
It was always me. I was always in my way. I used to have the mindset of it had to be perfect before I put it out. And now it's okay if it's not perfect, as long as it's somewhat done. We can always make it perfect along the way. So that's how we treat everything that we do now. We have a baseline, like here is the best thing that we could put out at this moment, knowing that we are going to edit it, refine it, and adjust based on whatever is happening. Everything is always something that we can change and improve on. But yeah, I was my biggest bottleneck always.
I resonate with that. And I think that that is true of entrepreneurship just generally, whether or not people are in seasons where they can see that, it does always come back to us. This kind of a curveball. I didn't prep you with this question, but what are ways you identify that you're in the way at that moment, and then ways that you now help get yourself out of the way?
Well, so one thing I didn't mention was I almost sold the business.
Really?
Yeah, so right before I rebranded, so probably 2021, I was done. I was burnt out. I was, you're dealing with the pandemic. You're dealing with, oh my gosh, like, am I really going to be making enough money to make this work? Because, we didn't start really rebuilding until like the end of 2021, 2022. I reached out to my colleagues. I was so overwhelmed, and they were like, you're going to get through this. Like, you already built this business. Don't give up on it. But I was like, I just want to work with the animals. I don't want to do this business stuff. It was just way, way too much. I didn't want to manage people. I didn't want to do all the back end. I didn't want to do payroll. Like, I just wanted to work with the animals. And I felt like I kept getting more and more stuck in behind the computer. And that was not what I wanted to do. I had gone to therapy for years, and my therapist retired in 2021. And I was too tired at that point to be like, oh my God, I have to start all over again with a new person. Like, I can't do this. What am I going to do? So that's when I started listening to podcasts and doing self-help stuff. And I didn't even know the pet sitting communities even existed.
Yeah.
And that is what really brought me out, was finding community, finding people that are going through what I'm going through, or if they're not going through what I'm going through, have either gone through it or can empathize with me, offer me some suggestions. That was my breakthrough. And that's when I was like, okay, I can build a community. I can rely on a community to help me get through this, and I can help myself get through it. So, stepping back and just doing a lot of mindfulness and being like, it's okay. This is not going to be like this forever. We can get through it. You've been through so much stuff over the last, decade. So we can do this too.
That's amazing. I knew pieces of that specific part of your story, but I didn't realize the relationship of selling your business and community. And I'm not sure if I've shared this with you. That was one of my big drivers for building DogCo, is because I also was so distanced from community when I had my pet care business. I never got connected into the pet care community. I actually really think that maybe would have changed the outcome of me selling my business. I'm, in hindsight, thankful it turned out this way. I love DogCo. I had my dream job. But when I came out of that experience, because I had a very similar place in 2022, just like I just felt like I needed the next thing for me. The pandemic was so draining in so many ways. And I didn't have that broader community, and I wanted to create it for other pet care professionals. So I love that. That's really amazing.
Well, I'm glad that you ended up selling. I'm sorry that you were feeling the burnout, but I'm glad that it worked out because, DogCo is such a fantastic community. We have so many great communities, but I feel like DogCo is like family, and being part of your mastermind this past year and now part of the 7-figure group, it has changed my life and definitely helped me to see more of my future and what I want to do with our company.
Makes me really happy. It actually made me really emotional. And I didn't expect that. So I was like, I have to sit with that feeling for a second. So I'd like to explore more of that, if that's okay, and also how you've approached just investing in yourself and the different things that you've done. Let me give my disclaimer to the audience. I have encouraged Angela to share whatever has been impactful to her story. DogCo's obviously been a piece of it in the last 18 months, year. Oh gosh, feels like longer. I guess a year.
A year, yeah.
But anything she says are her own words, and we're not primed by me. So following the theme of intentionality, you invest a lot in yourself and in getting connected and in growing. I'd love to know what drives that, how you think about what you put your time into when it comes to education and community and things like that, and what you have found serves you best.
So being a teacher, education is super, super important to me. As a teacher, we always had to do professional development anyway, and it was a requirement, but something I always loved because it made your job easier. It made it fun. Investing in myself is number one priority for me because I have to take care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Learning new things fills my bucket. So I'm constantly listening to podcasts, reading books, and meeting new people. I love meeting people out in the community, like other business owners or pet lovers, or even other business owners that are not in our industry. Like you can learn so much. So I'm a sponge. I love it.
I had a thread there that I wanted to pull, and then it kind of came out of my mind. What distracted me was thinking about how I recommended that book to you this week that I hadn't started yet, and it's been really dry. But
I was like, oh no.
So context for the audience, I really want to get more into like strategic thinking formulas and like become a more strategic thinker. And I made the recommendation for the group, the 7-figure group, on a book that I'm planning to read next. And Angela went ahead and got it and read it. She was like, this book is very dry.
I'm listening to it. I have an hour left and I'm like, I am committed to listening to this, but I'm like, it's not very fun for me right now.
I'm not going to lie, I feel bad, but I'm kind of glad this moment happened because I just know myself, and I know now if I don't listen to it, I'll have so much guilt that you did and I didn't, that this will push me over the edge.
Well, you might get something else out of it, I don't know. But right now, I'm honestly not getting anything out of it.
And I admire your commitment. Well, I'd love to transition and talk a little bit about how you're joining the DogCo team. And you're going to be working with companies next year. So you're going to be working with companies in track 2. So companies that have been in DogCo for a year that are coming into the second year, focused on scaling, focused on, improving their companies. And I'd love to hear just your thoughts coming into this year.
Super, super excited. When you asked me, I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect timing. Because if you had asked me the year before, I would have been like, no, I can't, because I just am focusing in on myself and the business. But now that I've worked with you over the past year, built the systems, have more time, like I feel like I can give back to our community, the people that helped me along the way, and just hopefully be a source of comfort and support and some inspiration, and hopefully help people through some tough times so that they know that they can come out and build a business that works for them.
I love that you mentioned like supporting people in difficult seasons too, because Every success leader that I asked to join for this upcoming year, you included, one of the reasons that I did is because I know and really trust that you guys are stepping in and are ready to step into like the whole spectrum of what it's like to be a business owner. Like it's not just rah rah cheerlead, like LFG. There's a lot of that. I do a lot of that. I want people to feel excited about their business, but it is hard. And there are moments where companies feel stuck or business owners feel stuck or hopeless or discouraged. And I know you know what it's like to navigate those seasons and to have that lived experience. And I think that will add such a depth to people's experience in the program.
Yeah, it's hard being a business owner, and it's so isolating when you don't have a community of people. I think that next year is going to be so different than what it's been in the past. And I think it's going to be like a great support having us as like extra.
I think so too. I'm really excited. I've been very upfront with people joining. Like I really feel like this model that we're running next year with DogCo is going to be next level.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give companies coming into next year? Whether they're companies that you'll be working with or just companies coming into a new year in their business.
Take time for themselves, figure out what they want in the business, planning ahead, definitely figuring out what would be a good resource for them, whether it is joining some kind of mastermind or some kind of Facebook group or even a local group or getting like a personal one-on-one coach. There's so many options available now that were not available when I first started. And so I am so grateful for whatever is available now because I feel like I've learned so much in the last couple of years. So just lean into that chaos, and know that like you can't scale chaos, but you can scale systems, but you'll get through that chaos in order to scale. Just having that patience and being mindful of like what you're doing, try to go slow. Like for me, I couldn't scale fast. Like I'm very, like you said, I'm very intentional. Like I need to make sure our systems are in place. I'm okay. My team's okay. My clients are okay, and grow slow. And also not to compare. I mean, I feel like I was doing a lot of that when I first joined the communities. I'm like, oh, they're doing it better than I am. And oh, why didn't I know that? Just having a little bit of grace for yourself, being like, you don't know what you don't know until you're in it. And it's okay to not know everything.
I think that is a real barrier for people, like that imposter syndrome of like, what if, I don't know. I think that's already hard as a business owner, feeling like, am I doing this right? When it's like, what even is right? This is a little world I created and I get to decide, but that feels really weird. I'm also really fixated on the line that you said, you can't scale chaos. I immediately saw a whole marketing campaign in my brain just paint that way. That was excellent verbiage. And it's true. You can only scale systems.
Well, and that's where I was. I feel like I was just in chaos, like when I didn't have managers, and it was like I was constantly putting out fires, and the business completely relied on me, and I just could not get out, and that's kind of how I feel. Like when I look back at like before management, it's like, wow, like we were so chaotic. Like, how did my team even want to work with me? But they did. We have a lot of people who have been with us since 2015, 2016, and they've really stuck it out. And so I'm so grateful that they like took the risk. Or even the people that start now, they take that risk to work with us. And so I love it.
Well, and I think that's such like a testament to you as the owner, that you have people on your team that have been with you for a decade, especially through the pandemic. Like that is really, really incredible.
Thank you. I love them. They're like family, like I wouldn't be where I am without our team. Whether they're our original or our brand new ones, they're all so, so, so amazing.
Well, I'd love to know, are there any remaining things that you want to share with the audience as we kind of wrap up here? This has been so wonderful hearing more about your story.
Oh, thank you. The only thing I guess is I know how hard this industry can be and how much heart and soul we all put into it. And I think that we just have to lean into bettering ourselves, choosing a path that works for us. And just because one path works for one company doesn't mean it has to be your path. Like in your group and in some of the other groups that I've been a part of, they teach you systems and processes, but you don't have to follow it. You can use it as a baseline and then make it your own. And I feel like that has been such a wonderful resource to know that I can take what's already developed and make it my own to work for our company. So that would be my leaving.
I fully agree with that. Use what you learn as a trampoline to give you more momentum rather than like, it has to look this way, because it's your business. And that's the really cool thing about entrepreneurship is these are bricks that we put in place to help give a foundation. They're not the entire house. So I love that. That's fabulous advice. Well, thank you so much. And thank you if you are listening to this episode for listening along. By the time this comes out, Angela will already have started working with DogCo clients. So I know that this was probably really fun for if you are one of the clients working with Angela this year to hear more about her story. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks so much.